Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the PPL. It's day 2 here of the action, and we are getting ready to show what you just saw there. A little bit of those world champions, the defending ones, in their first set of the day. Of course, let me welcome you back to the desk. My name is Evan Rainday Rayner. This is Nick Pretty Hair Keogh joining me. And first off, how you feeling today, man?
I'm feeling great. Yesterday definitely got me really, really excited. Really close sets. Probably much longer of a day, I think, than anyone really anticipated.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of showed up, even the teams that we thought might be a little bit towards the middle or even bottom of the pack.
It was a very competitive day, to say the least. 18 out of the 21 potential games were played yesterday, and it was essentially a really great opening to what will be an amazing season. If you guys want to take a look at the schedule for this afternoon and this morning, maybe this night if it goes as long as it did yesterday, Kanga Esports versus Envy will open things up for us. Yesterday, you could see how the results played out, 2-4 every single match. It really was a story of teams having momentum and swinging it back and forth.
Yeah, and kind of an interesting flow, right? In the first set, we had NIP and the Pittsburgh Knights go 2, then 2, then 2. And then in some of the other cases, we just had 1-1-1-1-1 the whole way until it finally flipped for a 6-game victory.
That was Renegades.
I definitely expect this to be more of a sweepy type of day, though. The defending champs, after what we saw yesterday, should be able to beat Kanga. I think 4-0, maybe a 4-1 if Kanga can get an early map on one of their stronger map picks.
Well, yeah, I mean, Renegades took it to Kanga in a way we didn't all expect. We thought Kanga might have gotten the better end of that, especially looking at their lineup with some veterans in there that have really already achieved a lot of success here in the PPL and in Paladins Premier League past. But let's take a look at the standings. Shaken up, it's Renegades, NIP, and Envy at the top of the PPL. Probably the only time this has occurred with those 3 teams specifically. Renegades, normally a 4th, 5th place team. NIP battling between 2nd and 4th over the last few seasons, not really able to break that first curse. But things could be different here. And one of the matches I know a lot of people are looking forward to, Nick, is this kind of jumble of North American, European, well, I guess not a lot. No, not Latin American in Virtus Pro facing off against the Pittsburgh Knights, which are some old teammates, Cuss and Doe, going back at it against one another.
I can't wait. It's one of those rosters. The G2 roster kind of blew up and the Fnatic roster kind of blew up, but everybody's sort of on good terms. You know what I mean? Nobody has any bad blood towards each other. It's great players, but it just wasn't working in that combination. So they're splitting it up, and these are 2 teams that I think could actually end up being very close to each other in the standings. And Dave kind of said this yesterday. Every game is close because, you know, Navi and Envy are probably going to be damn near the top of the standings. The Knights and the NIP are probably going to be somewhere in the middle, and Kanga and Renegades probably somewhere towards the back of the pack from what everyone's sort of expecting. So today could be more of that. We'll have to kind of see where Virtus Pro stacks up against the Knights as we sort of round out our expectations for all these teams moving forward.
Well, I'm not going to make any expectations or any predictions because we were really off on what we expected to happen yesterday. And today, I do, though, have my original statement with the Knights taking it over VP. We'll see. I'm the odd man out there, but I'm excited to maybe get a good set going on for that one. Now let's transition over to Kanga and Envy. Our first set of the day. We saw a little bit of a disappointing opener with Kanga. They didn't win. Renegades took the W. How do you feel about Evil Eye, his performance? I felt like he was a little, quiet on the usual.
He seemed like he maintained a pretty good attitude, and that's what's definitely important. This team as a whole kept giving me vibes of like, it's only been a week or so since we've all been here practicing together. We are one of those hyper-international teams that has to overcome the big ping barriers, the time zone barriers, but now that we've been here and we can start to practice, he looked at me with a smile on his face and said, we're going to get better after today or after yesterday.
And I mean, how much is it Kanga not performing versus some of the insane performances we saw yesterday from Invocal? I mean, we have to talk about this. This 16-year-old kid is lighting up the league. That was probably the best damage performance of everybody yesterday.
We talked specifically about how Gara and Evil Eye are such experience and a lot of times, in a lot of ways, successful additions to that roster, whereas the Renegades were a 3rd-place team that added less successful players than even they had been.
Yeah.
And for those 2 guys to have that type of performance is really, really insane. It could end up being like the Legacy from Flashpoint situation where Shadow is subbing while Loki gets his affairs in order, but they might just say, this is actually kind of working for us.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't know if I would change that. Shadow adds the blaster component that Loki doesn't. Loki and Invoker kind of overlap on a lot of overlap.
And that's a problem a lot of NA teams have always had.
Yeah.
Shadow's a blessing, I think.
I don't know. We'll have to see. At least keep him on the roster as a sub, maybe on a matchup. We'll see. I'd love to see teams use their subs more strategically rather than if a player just can't play. But heading into our first matchup, you saw a little bit of a glimpse of the man Gera there. Coming from Fnatic, his story's been really special. Having an opportunity to play in those World Championships again and again, take first multiple times in our leagues, but never quite get there in the way that gave him the full onus of, I have accomplished what I dreamed of. He was on D69 and the second place, the Gangstar. Never really the bride, always the bridesmaid. Is this year going to be different for him on Kanga?
It's definitely a tall task, I think, with this roster, because Kanga in general has never cracked a final, and Gera has been there. I think it's a good mix of people and different experiences that those players bring. Specifically, Evil Eye has kind of had that same Fnatic-y vibe to him. G2 have gone undefeated and kind of failed unceremoniously at LAN. So that's a big thing, I think, for them to look to overcome. And maybe Kanga can bring a little bit of a different flavor. Like, well, this is the way that we normally handle this, like looking up. Like, Gera and Evil Eye, they're not really used to looking up at their opponents, I think. They often come in undefeated and looking down, and in a lot of cases, specifically with Fnatic, underestimating their opponent.
Well, I'm excited because we have a chance right now with Dave on the floor to talk to Gera himself and get his thoughts heading into this first matchup of today. So let's send it down to Dave and see what Gera has to say.
Alongside me here this morning is Gera of Team Kanga. Gera, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine. It was a little bit early, but I'm doing fine.
Yeah, so you guys come off a tough loss yesterday. Very hard fought, very close game. How's the team feeling this morning?
I mean, we didn't have too much practice in yet because I arrived Wednesday. So we're just looking to get practice in and then improve over the season.
So what does a Thursday night look like at the Kanga team house before a game on Friday? It doesn't happen every week, but is there any last-minute prep you guys put in to going into today?
We looked over the drafts, what they pulled out against Navi, and they definitely had some interesting things what we figured out, and hopefully we can counter some of it.
So looking at that specifically, today you guys go against the defending world champions of Envy. Any specific practice that goes into that?
Nah, they're definitely a good team. They're the favorites by far. They've been practicing all season, and we just got here. We just started practicing. We only had a couple of days in, so we just have to see what we can get.
Well, thank you very much. Best of luck to you guys today. Sending it back to the guys on the desk.
Thank you so much, Dave. It seems like Gera's keeping expectations pretty low for today.
I think that's important to manage expectations, right? Don't come in like hype out of your mind.
We're about to take
right?
this.
If you win a map, to get up and like give Envy one of these across the way. None of that weak clapping business. I think that is important, right? It's like I don't know. I've only been here, since Wednesday. I'm doing my thing. I'm trying. We're practicing, but at the end of the day, they've been here forever. Envy was the first team to make the move and get comfortable, and they've been practicing and are the world champions.
What's the line between being too nonchalant and being low, not having high expectations?
I think by like week 3 or 4, you have to expect to show up to these matches, right? I think it's okay to realize, all right, this is going to be a tough one. Let's get a map or two today. I think by weeks 3 or 4, you need to kind of be like, all right, we need to start competing.
Fair enough. All right, let's take a look at what Rock Monkey's been doing, Nick, because obviously this man has been the biggest impact in all of damage dealers in North America and in the world over the last year. He has absolutely blown away his competition just with his steady aim and his ability to clinically demolish those who step to him. Yesterday was a good performance on the Shaolin. Seems like this is a champion that could be showing up more and more today.
Was he the first one to pull that out? I can't remember because it did come out a couple of times yesterday.
I believe Creatives played it.
I think you're right.
I think he might have.
I can't remember. Somebody definitely played it other than Rock Monkey, but the thing is that they made it work, and that's the big thing that Team Envy showed us a lot yesterday. Not only Drogos, but the Shaolin, as well as Fernando. So they're showing us a lot of things that, all right, these haven't really been strong. We're even sleeping or kind of dissuading teams from picking even Fernando, right? But Envy was one of the teams we talked about. We want to watch and just see what they do or what they've been cooking up with some of these characters. And it feels like Drogos and Fernando are almost even in that synergistic relationship where it's like they definitely both did better when they were both there.
Yeah.
They didn't do bad on their own, but it felt like a much better practice thing when they were together.
Well, let's take a look at this guy, Tolkien. He has had a phenomenal season, playing a front line as well. Just going positive, that's not an easy thing to do, but he is maintain that and then some.
That's tough.
What an incredible kind of showcase of talent, but more so decision-making. Tolkien really finds the line between being an excellent finisher of a fight, being that Inara that can take a Jogus out of the sky if the Jogus isn't paying attention, to also not overstepping the way we've seen some overly aggressive front lines try to do to make up for maybe their decision-making as well. Of course, all of this has to do with the decisions behind the scenes, and that's why they have a coach. The name is meta pusher Justin Wilkes. We are actually down on the floor with him as well to give us some thoughts about Envy going into this game.
Thank you, guys. And alongside me now is the coach of Envy, Meta Pusher. Meta Pusher, how are you? How are the guys feeling this morning?
I'm good. Everybody's feeling pretty good. Random's actually a little bit sick, but, there's nothing he can't tough through.
Yeah, I imagine coming off a great win, especially against a team like Na'Vi. How does a Thursday night look for you guys in the Envy house?
Just a lot of relaxing. We didn't really scrim last night or anything. The best of sevens are honestly really tiring. So everybody went back home, took a nap. We watched the rest of the matches. Kind of got to see what they did against Renegades, and I think we're ready.
Absolutely. So looking over at Kanga, they come off a tough loss yesterday, but certainly no one can be overlooked in this league. Is there any special practice that goes into playing against Kanga today?
Not really any special practice. We definitely analyzed everything they did yesterday, and honestly, I think we have everything we need. They literally banned the same thing in every single game, the same 4 bans in all 6 of their games. So I'm kind of looking to see if they do anything different today, because if not, then we know what they're doing.
And looking at that as well, looking forward into going into today, how important is it, given the level of competition in this league, to go up 2-0 early on?
It's really important. It lets you kind of have the flexibility of not having to choose the map when you're ahead and the other team's losing. They have to keep picking their maps, and you're seeing what they all prioritize. So a 2-0 lead is definitely really important.
Well, best of luck to you guys today. Thank you for talking with me. We'll see how it plays out. Send it back to the guys on the desk.
Thank you, Dave. There's a little bit of a word from Meta Pusher here. Tiring. Definitely was the feeling, and here's some real-world applications. Yeah, of some real-world applications of going into these best of sevens. Physically, you do have to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. It's a big part of, what we talked about. I was kind of memeing, asking what they have for breakfast, but Rubu comes in and says, "Where are my Slim Jims? I need my breakfast." I'm like, come on, dog. We have the hospital out here to tell you, have a
Slim
banana or
Jims,
something. We got fruit,
yeah.
We got water, we got all this great stuff for you here. And it's like, where are my Slim Jims at, Johnny?
That ain't it, Chief. And I think he realizes it too. Take care of yourself as an e-athlete, or as I keep kind of promoting, is important. These guys need to have their energy levels right. They need to be able to get some water in, stay hydrated. So, we have that taken care of them, but there is a lot of hungry boys in this studio. They are eating all of the food and then some. If we go out 5 minutes late, there's no way there's anything left there. So I hope it's going in their stomachs. Otherwise, it's just being stolen and run off with. So we're going to have to talk to admins about that.
A great point I think they brought up in the interview, though, was that indeed the bans in that Kanga Renegade set were the same every single game, all 6 of them. And I was kind of saying, I don't know if it's a lack of preparation, but it smells like not every team starts with the bans as their strategy to mix it up. Like, they'll change picks and stuff like that, but it can really have a crazy waterfall or butterfly effect, whatever you want to call it, when you switch up the bans. Like, it can be very interesting the way drafts can go based on, one ban being changed. And you got to have a really in-depth strategy, and that, I think, comes back to Kanga just haven't practiced a ton together, so they probably don't have too many drafts figured out. And even if you look back at that Envy doc, right, how Rockmink was saying, they beat us, but it felt like that was all they had. So we only had to figure out how to beat one thing.
Yeah, and Kanga are a very good drafting team in terms of their ideology and their ability to prep. Hades is, one of the more, I think, ambitious coaches in all of Paladins, and I've seen in esports, he really goes the extra mile to make sure his team is ready. And we are ready here for the picks and bans to start out game 1 in set 1, Envy versus Kanga. It's going to be the Drogos and the Torvald taken away, and then the Grover for Kanga to start out their ban phase. One more pick until it's Envy's first pick to go here.
Drogos has been pretty important. I think Kanga playing it a decent amount yesterday as well, but Envy having so much more I think, in the tank. A couple more people brought out Eevee after a random noob did, but nobody looked quite as ready to rock and roll with it. And playing it into, especially with how important Leon was in that matchup between the Renegades and Kanga, I was surprised to see Eevee picked into the Leon that was already selected and locked in for the opposing team as much as we did. And, you know, matchups are one thing in Paladins, of course. You can outplay and overcome certain odds, but it was just a little odd.
The Makoa here for MV, first pick, and that Drogoz smells of a couple of things. One, Bright Marsh and the Wormjet's actually a pretty strong build, but I also think that they're testing the champion pool. I don't think Evil Eye's Eevee was nearly as impressive as I saw actually Shadow's Eevee yesterday. And if MV was watching that, forcing him into the Eevee pick or forcing him to forego it and give it to random noob who did do very well on it, I think this is a smart way to pressure out Kanga early on. But they're going to get the Ashe and Khan to start out their first drafts.
It feels like they do switch it up a little bit, right? Khan was one of those characters that was banned every single time, along with Makoa, so by not doing that, Kanga leave him open, and they also get Ashe, which is an interesting talking point because it was just by factor of being Renegades was their opponent, but Ashe was the first pick in, I believe, every single game in that set. So if Envy aren't as, you know, dying to get this pick, I think this makes drafting a lot easier for Kanga because it became very Ashe-centric, and it felt like the whole conversation was about Ashe and those bans being the same every single time.
And I think it's just Osirino's ability to be so aggressive on these front lines. I think Ashe and Khan, they really work well for him, and to be able to create space for his team. I see the Cassie still being a huge pickup here for Kanga. Chronix performed very well with it. It's a great mid-range character with some long-range pressure potential, and a map like Bright Marsh works very well for the Cassie. It also dissuades some of the Ancient Rage from Makoa, and the Ceres here is going to be very circumstantially valuable in that circular point. But they're going to go for the Eevee here. That actually catches me off guard a little bit.
And it feels like maybe to take it away, I think, again. Tough matchup there for Leon, and the Xin will come out as well. Another thing that we didn't see from Random Noob yesterday, but we saw from him in the World Championship, as well as from Alex yesterday. So we know this pick is still relevant, and Random was one of the first people to bring it out and do very well with it. And it was one of the keys to that World Championship, I believe.
Well, here's a really awesome opportunity. You're right, it was definitely a key for that World Championship, but this Eevee Cassie versus the Leon Xin. This is an interesting damage duo that we haven't really seen go up against each other much in this exact formation. How do you feel about who's going to get the better end of this on Bright Marsh specifically?
I think Evil Eye's got to stay away from Rock Monkey out of the gate. You look for the support, and if you have ult, you can actually go after the Xin. It's not too bad to worry about. You just have counter. He's going to be locked out of Billow and Whirl, so cripples are very, very, very good at shutting down Xin, and that will be something I think Evil Eye looks for at one time or another.
Chronix looked really good on the Cassie, too. How
sure.
much does he have to overperform, or at least stay up to his usual game-changing standards in order for Kanga to get the result?
Well, hopefully they don't allow them to get this bread, but Ruby looks like he's already got himself a loaf.
Chronix got the sneaks, though, bro.
Taking the call, man.
And this is something you can't mess with. Give me my Air Jordans any day. I got a pair. I didn't buy them, though. My parents
Sorry, I
gave
got
them to
distracted and completely didn't answer your question.
And Bright Marsh is the location. Let's get started. Game 1, set 1. It's MV versus Kanga. Dave Gore, take it away.
Chronix got the sneaks. Rubu's got the bread. Those are going to be some of the funnier team intros that we have. Great talking to guys this morning. Both teams seem like they're feeling good going into today. I think they all realize that it's a long season, but important to get things started right. Envy's done so thus far. Kanga looking for their first win on the board here in Bright Marsh, our first location.
And they've got a good draft for Bright Marsh, and honestly just for themselves. Something they were very comfortable on yesterday was the Ashe. We had actually heard the Desk talk about that, but being able to pick up this Cassie, another thing that played an important role throughout their set. And you get Evil Eye on something he's comfortable on and can do a lot of work. But whether or not Eevee's going to be successful here is really the big question mark. I need to see him get a couple of kills, make that big difference, and prove its worth.
Well, he's looking for some damage to start things off, nearly dropping Noob on the Xin, nearly predicting the Billow back into the shot there. Envy off to a quick 39% lead there, but Rubu instead finds Rhino on the Ashe. That's a big loss, but Evil Eye finally drops Random Noob on the backside. Kanga now taking over the point. Health bar is going very low. Rubu gets himself the second of this fight, but Evil Eye's not done yet. Looking for the Barrack, unable to clean him up just yet. He's going to go low. Oh, he has 3 health. He literally has 3 health, and he finally dashes back in, and Hayes gets him in the pool. That is so unfortunate.
He was so low, the gourd got him.
The gourd. He ate the poisoned gourd, falls on the backside. In Envy, retake the point here. 72% in climbing. A little zone gets them point number 1.
And Evil Eye has been playing this really well. He's been avoiding Rock Monkey. That's the best thing you can do in this game when you're Eevee. But unfortunately, Rubu and Rock Monkey have just been dominating the left-hand side. And now that he knows where Evil Eye is, he's locking him down and making sure he can't have that presence anymore.
Convergence falls just a bit short there. You saw the Dread Serpent just prior doing a good job fearing up some of the enemies on Kanga. 3 kills secures point number 1 here for Envy, and Envy off to a very hot start, not slowing things down at all from yesterday. Friday morning starting off just as hot as Thursday afternoon did for them. 4 streaked out members, and starting off very well here on Bright Marsh. I mean, they got 2 ultimates, Kanga's got 3, almost 4. They need to change something up here for Kanga if they want to find a stop.
You know, one of the things I'm noticing that's causing a lot of trouble for Kanga, and this causes a lot of trouble for any team, Makoa is good in competitive play. That's just going to be a fact. It doesn't matter whether you are the team that is ahead or behind. Makoa is going to be a good pickup for you. And the thing that's going on here for Kanga is when you're coming in as the underdog, maybe giving up Makoa, like, it's not a death sentence, but you let Rubu have something that he can be aggressive on. He's obviously hitting a lot of these hooks. He's getting in your face and causing a lot of trouble. This is a very good reprieve, but Kanga are getting a defense a minute into Bright Marsh. It's a shorter map. Envy definitely have the capability to push them back. I need this defense to not only go through, but they have to come out guns blazing for round 2.
And they're also burning a lot of their ultimates. The Ice Storm coming out, the Cassie ultimate got popped a minute ago. It doesn't help when Rock Monkey's dropping kills left and right. He finds himself 2, looking for a 3rd here onto Ash. The Dread Serpent helps secure it. Rubu and Random Noob cleaning that up. Eevee's going to be the last target soon to fall, so a clean sweep there from Envy. Gets this payload push right back on track. They did burn a couple ultimates there, themselves as well. Mr. Hayes picking up right where he left off. He had a 31 streak on the Damba yesterday. Starting off game number 1 here with an 11 streak, and it didn't bode well for Na'Vi yesterday when Mr. Hayes was on the 31 streak. Doesn't bode well for Kanga right now, especially now when Rubu's hitting every hook that he's looking for.
And it's always grabbing someone that's going to be a high priority, right? He's actually been getting rid of Joel's and Rhino probably more often than anyone else just because they're going to be the game changers right now. Evil Eye needs the space they create in order to make it work. He needs a little bit of room to get away from Rock Monkey.
Right.
And there's just no one to be able to create that as long as they keep locking down the front line.
And that's exactly what that push was, right? I mean, on the back of 1 kill, they were able to lock down the front line. The back line had to stay up high back in their base, and they were able just to stroll on through with the payload there. So the rest of Envy starting to streak out. Now Random Noob feeding with 3 deaths while the rest of his team only has 1 or 0, which is unfortunate. Damage charts kind of tell the story here that Makoa, I mean, obviously you expect Leon to be on the top, but Makoa making his presence felt with the 2nd highest damage in the game, above the Cassie, above the Eevee. So Rubu making sure his presence is felt here on Bright Marsh. You know, no resistance or anything like that coming out on the side of Kanga. Need to make a change, though, if they want to answer back onto this Makoa.
And what you could see in Rubu's loadout is a lot of sustainability. Whenever he drops below 50% health, he's going to be getting that with the Termination 5. But he's also got the Rampage, the movement speed card we always talk so much about whenever you get an elimination. Ebb and Flow, as well as Surf, keeping yourself safe. Like, he's just going to be very difficult to take down. He's either getting more healing or he's getting out of the fight, and he's never going to be fully locked down. And when you have that kind of mobility as well as that control, you can do this. You can just pull Rhino completely away from his team and take him out yourself.
And Rhino dropped his banner there as well. He was really trying hard to lock down this left side of the map, but you know, you just back up as the Makoa. You find yourself Chronix in the back, hook another one onto Saris. Gara potentially soon to fall. You imagine if he hits a shot here, he will, and he does. And Rubu just rampaging right now through the Kanga Esports lineup in the background, 57% already on the point. And if this push keeps up, they're not going to get a chance to touch it again.
And honestly, one of the things you had pointed out coming into this round was the fact that Random Noob has the most deaths. He's like the only one they can easily kill.
Right.
Like, and that's saying something, because Zen is difficult to kill. He's difficult to lock down. He has a very small window, and competitive teams can normally find it, but he's the only one they can lock in. Rock Monkey's in the pocket. No one's going to be able to touch him without getting through at least 3 other members of Envy first, and then the other front lines are doing so much work, so much damage on their own, you can't do anything against them.
Yeah, Chronix trying to do something, finds Random Noob again, but I mean, at this point, I think Noob will take being the one who ends up dying in these fights, because that means that the rest of his team are the ones who are rampaging forward and finding the kills. This is the same way the last defense started for Kanga. They found some pressure back onto Envy, but weren't able to find the ultimate defense. The Ashe ultimate is back up, does come out, but it's right next to a dome shield, so there's not going to be a lot of follow-up damage coming out. Jules cleans up Rubu, so that's the Makoa down. At least a little bit of respite for them right now. Barrack is his target, but Envy's looking like they'll elect just to kind of back off, try to regroup. Gotta watch out for Eevee, though. She can get up into your face. The hook comes in. That might not be where Rhino wants to be. Looks like it's just going to be a little bit of poking back and forth, at least for the moment.
And Rubu going to be able to kind of just curve that cannonball exactly where it needs to go to through the door. But this is actually okay for Envy, right? First off, you go from 2.5 minutes down to 1 minute, and you still have a minute left. Someone's pushing the payload right now, and that's where things need to be paying attention. Nobody on Kanga is looking at it until just now. Random Noob slipped by and was able to get a little bit of progress.
The sneaky backdoor payload push and a couple kills to boot. Actually, very good play, very smart play there from Random Noob. I mean, we didn't even realize
y'all are going to fight over there. I'll just go back there.
I'll push it in. I'll win the game. I mean, 3-0, and when it's off the screen, all you can see is that little red diamond moving forward, and moving forward it was. 45 seconds left, about 10% of the way to go. Off the map goes Rubu at the expense of an overpower, so that's going to be down for the last fight here. If this is going to be the last fight of the game, Envy looking to end it now. They will have the Dread Serpent up here for this final fight, but the rest of their ultimates a little further back onto the charge. Rock Monkey doing his best to hit his shots, and he does it well. Ooh, got to be careful there. The Eevee nearly clipping him off. Trying to predict a few of those shots. Such a satisfying thing to watch. Players predicting, knowing Eevee so well, knowing where she's going to be, especially a guy like Rock Monkey who doesn't miss much anyway. Ice Storm comes out into the convergence, actually. Very nice stack there from Kanga, but no kills come out. Instead, Kanga are the ones falling themselves. Envy looking to push this one through. Overtime's going to start ticking away, but they're on the front foot.
And the good news for Rhino is he's just in range. He's right next to that payload, but he gets plucked out one more time. And this is the control. There's no Rock Monkey right now to be able to take him down. It's only going to be the front lines. He's gone a little too far back on the side of that Leon, but they have enough damage anyway. They can still push him down, and now the payload has a lot more of a chance going in.
And it's just these staggered kills. There's like one pick here, one pick there, and it's just enough to keep this payload moving forward. Envy are getting a little low on health. They have to be careful. Their Damba's still there. 26 streak now for Mr. Hayes. Make it a 27. Kanga starting to fall back and forth. Ashe is going to be the last line of defense here, and if she falls, it's going to go through. And it is going to go through, and Envy find themselves a clean 4-0 victory off the start.
And a lot of that, again, the draft feels really good for them. And I was mentioning this to you during the picks and ban screen because it was something very similar to yesterday where they grabbed the Leon early, and if you're sitting in Kanga's shoes, you're like, well, Eevee is good on this map, or she can be, and we know Random Noob likes Eevee. We can pick Eevee to try and stop them from having it, or we can let them have Eevee and they're going to be even more comfortable. But Envy are happy either way because they have a counter for it.
Envy are happy because they found themselves a win here in Game 1. To break it down, let's send it back on over to Evan and Nick.
Thank you, guys. It's really interesting to see the way Envy took those fights. It was a slow but steady increase in pressure that resulted in that 4-0 that we just witnessed.
Yeah, a lot of times it feels like they knew kind of what was going to happen before it did happen, and then they already knew what they were going to do after the fact to respond. The big moment there was that point fight for Envy to go up 3-0 when Rubu definitely was like trying to get in there in Ancient Rage. He gets like knocked away, and then almost a forced-ish assert dominance from Rhino into the backline that doesn't really get a lot of follow-up. He's just kind of there, and then as soon as it expires, he gets hooked and dies.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like that communication didn't even happen because then Rubu just kind of moves on, kills Chronix, hooks Gera off the point. He kills 3 people at that point. It's like, well, I mean, you guys should have known he was coming a little bit.
Yeah.
Rubu takes over that game for me on Makoa. That was really, really brutal to watch.
It was absolutely that. And I think Random Noob also, he did a good job of being the Zen that is doing a lot more than his stats say. I think that's a big part in competitive games. You look at that 1-3 slash line to start out that first round, but the distraction factor, the amount of time he made people chase and look at him, even pushing the payload, forcing people away, he essentially saves Mr. Hayes' life because they can't dive him knowing they've got to go back and try to deal with that. So he's done a great job of utilizing this more of a utility style Zen.
Staying effective. That's a big thing. He's like, these matchups kind of suck. This is annoying. I'm getting frustrated. Let me do something else. Basically, I can't find these kills as easy as I would like. And that's a big part of it. NIP talked about that a little bit with Alex. The way he plays Xin is a bit more team-oriented. A lot of Zins kind of go off and be a lone wolf because, frankly, you can, unlike a lot of other characters. But it's just a new element. It's a different way of playing the character. They played Fernando a different way to make him successful, and they'll probably be looking to play Xin a little bit of a different way to make him successful.
Beauty Paladins, the flexibility of these champions and their play styles. 3 talents, that ain't no joke, man. You can play them very differently. And even with the same talent, we're finding out now. Chronix taking a look at the guys. They had mentioned they have not been able to scrim since Jera got in on Wednesday. So doing their best. No expectations too high facing against the defending world champions in Envy, but they do have some things to improve. I personally was questioning how you felt Rhino's Ashe looked, being in that 1 and 2 spot, the Ashe Khan. How do you think that performed, and do they make any adjustments next round?
It's really tough to let Makoa go against Ashe. A big part of Ashe is that ultimate, and having 2 ways to interrupt it. We saw it once in the Dredge Anchor, and then we saw it once actually coming from Spite. That was a really cool way to sort of intercept that ultimate, and that was almost exclusively how he was using it. I don't think I saw any DPSs or supports get spited. It was almost always on the front lines just to lock them down. It goes through shields, so it's very effective in that way. And oftentimes you're a little bit more safe if you're just picking a frontliner from what is the fringes of the fight rather than diving hard to the backline to use that. So again, coming back to how Random Noob found a way to stay effective even against some frustrating moments and matchups.
Evil Eye looked pretty good to me on the EV. He seemed like he was on point, hitting his shots. It doesn't seem like that'll be a negative, a deterrent, but it really did seem like the Rubu Makoa just got out of control. The Rampage was indeed happening, like that old school game Rampage. Remember that one where they would run through the New York streets? You'd pick like a monster and you'd be able to like fight another monster in this huge fake city.
I don't think I ever played that.
You never played that?
It
Rampage?
Sounds familiar, though.
Oh, man.
Where you pick a different monster. Or
you pick a monster and you fight.
Dwayne Johnson made that movie
It's like Pacific
recently.
Rim. It's like the game of Pacific Rim back in the, 90s? Or late 90s, probably. I don't think early 2000s. But,
sign me up.
And then the movie was based off of that game.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I never actually watched that movie.
Okay, so now, but you know what I'm talking about now.
Yeah.
Frozen Guard. So this map has already been selected, and this is where I would assume Kanga would like to go.
I think you're right.
I believe
I
Envy
put money
had
on that.
first pick last round, which usually goes with first map pick. So feeling good about Frozen Guard. What changes about this map?
I think you're looking at a lot of those different styles of compositions, and even if you look at the minor league, Maeve's been a little bit successful here. So if we see a more conventional set of bans where there is no Makoa and Inara is really looked at as that top tier front line, Kanga could go for something like that. I think it's not outlandish to ask Evil Eye to play that. I don't know if it's still in the wheelhouse. Yesterday, when Kanga were here, they ran a more, and a lot of teams are doing this now, where they're just saying, we're not going to take a sniper here. We're not going to be a long-range comp. We're going to be a mid-range comp because you can still fight here. You just have to take the fight at a different spot when you're playing as a mid to close-range composition on Frozen.
A lot of Grover bans and Torvald continuously banned. Kanga banning the Ashe, hoping that Envy will give them either the Makoa Khan. I think the Ashe is a strong ban here, especially considering that it just didn't work out the way they wanted for Rhino. And the Makoa seems to be the priority. I don't know if Envy will let it through. I think they're going to ban it as well. So they say you could take Khan if you want, but you're going to leave some good stuff open for us in our DPS selections as well. So what will Kanga opt for now that they've got first pick?
It feels like Khan, based on what they were banning yesterday and what they prioritized last game as well, though I didn't really feel the effects too much of Khan. I think Khan is more effective on Frozen Guard. The overpower is much easier to grab a kill with on the point than it is on Brightmar, so they could lean that way. And Nara hasn't been a super important staple for them. It feels like Kanga really do prefer those aggro tanks.
Yeah, I mean, they really have been preferencing the Khan, but the Inara Leon, it's a very strong combination. And if you had taken the Inara, then you would have given up Khan Leon to Envy, and that's pretty strong as well. How deep will these blasters go? Drogos is available, but not really played on this map. Much lower priority. Eevee can work. Bomb King probably the most stable blaster that appears here.
Most likely, if they're going to go for a blaster. Xin is definitely not off the table here. He's been picked up pretty often, and I think that started just because, so many people were running snipers back in the day on this map. So Zen was one of those guys that could get there safely, who had the double cooldowns to safely get in and then get out. We saw played pretty much every Frozen Guard game yesterday, but that has transitioned again away from snipers and more into these power mid-rangers, so to speak. So definitely look for the Cassie to still come through for Kanga. That didn't work last game for them, but I think it was just because Rubu was so overpowering, not that because Cassie didn't have what she needed.
Big difference here is that the Maldamba now on the side of Kanga, but Envy's got a lot more room to work with for that mortal reach with the Saris, and Frozen Guard definitely the way people like to take these clumped up fights, rotate around. You see a little bit of a merry-go-round potentially, or at least two sides playing the horizontal lines of the map versus the vertical payload lines. You're going to see the Saris actually have a lot of value here, and the Eevee locked in for Random Noob. Uh-oh.
I think that's a part of, again, they pick up this Leon fairly early because not only is it a good pick to take away from Kanga, but it definitely helps to deter that matchup a little bit. Rock Monkey played nicely, and Random will finally be back to his home base. We still need picks, though, very defining picks of this composition for Kanga. So it feels like picking their front line very early puts them in a spot where they get to really look at what this MV composition is going to round out to be. So just a small adjustments here down the stretch with the Zen Cassie.
Makes a lot of sense. I like Zen and Cassie here as well. I think this is going to be a very strong two-way kind of opportunity because you can deal with the Ruckus Shields and the Anar really nicely with the big game Cassie, and that's something Chronix is familiar with. And the Zen, man, that's going to buy a lot of time for a lot of these other champions. The Khan, the Barrack fantastic at holding his own against the Inara, especially with the Damba now. It's going to be a different kind of opportunity for Mr. Hayes to show his stuff because now Gera is back on probably his most favored healing champion outside of maybe the Ying. What do you got with these lineups? Who do you give the edge to?
I actually do like Kanga's lineup a little bit more. I think it comes down to, can Evil Eye keep Rock Monkey under control here so Chronix can do something? And we know yesterday when Chronix had the opportunity, he was being very, very successful.
Well, it's time to see if they can tie it up or if Envy, the defending world champs, will take game 2. Let's send it down to your casters to get it going.
Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Nick. Frozen Guard. Game number 2, the house rock band strumming away in the back. I can hear the maestro clicking his little, what's that thing called?
Baton
on the stand in the back. But Rock Monkey and Random Noob both getting a couple of their more favored champions. As far as a whole lineup goes, the guys on the desk kind of said they liked Kanga's lineup as far as being able to deal with the Envy lineup, but I think the potency of a Rock Monkey Leon and a Random Noob Eevee is not something to scoff at.
And that's even glancing over the fact that Rubu is on
Ruckus.
Right. Like he's
right.
going to be so happy on this Ruckus, and this is going to be what I kind of expect. Yeah, you get a really, really good draft from Kanga, and I actually love their team on Frozen Guard. But I think you get 4 out of 5 comfort picks. Like the only thing that would make Envy more comfortable is if that Maldamba was there instead of the Saris. And they don't even need it. I feel like Mr. Hayes is going to be just as comfortable on the Saris, so being able to kind of bring that in, this could be... There's a lot of potential from Kanga, but I feel like this round, and many more in the future, might go very similarly unless Kanga can figure out how to deal with this Ruckus first.
And they need to figure it out fast. I mean, 81% already on the point. I think Kanga jumped onto it first. And Envy was fine to sacrifice 12% into what will eventually be a clean team wipe and a first point of their own. Not before Barrack's going to try to get in there and clean it up, but it's not going to go his way this time. Rhino finding Rubu on the back end, so the Ruckus actually does end up falling. Now Random Noob is the target of Khan's attacks, but he's going to be able to get out, and just some poking back and forth, but overtime ticking away, and a dead Rhino equals a point on the board here for Envy, and yet again, all players streaked out and everyone's rolling.
And if you notice right there, Chronix, it's important to get that kill, not just because you need to get rid of the Cassie, but he has Mr. Hayes like on the edge, on the verge of death, and the team collapses to save their support. And that's something that Envy have that Kanga, it feels like they just need that extra time practicing. I mean, it was even mentioned earlier that, they haven't had as much time to be able to scrim as a full team. And coming in, again, against the reigning world champs is not an easy way to show off the skill you have, but you need that communication. You need that breakdown that Envy have, where their comms are just so concise that they know exactly where they need to be, exactly when they need to be there.
That's just chemistry. I mean, you can feel it talking to the guys. They're all good friends. They all love playing together, and it shows in their game. Random Noob and Rock Monkey each adding 1, soon to be a 3rd for the team. Random Noob getting his 2nd. 3 down for Kanga. Envy well on their way to a 2-0 here on Frozen Guard unless Kanga can stop them. And the bridge is the place to do it. I mean, this is where teams make their stand on Frozen Guard. The range advantage, not necessarily one way or the other, but it's not helpful when the payload is already almost in your base when you're coming out of spawn. It just needs to get pushed in just slightly here. Rhino, overpower onto Random Noob is going to drop him, so finding themselves a little bit of space here on the backside anyway. Envy electing to drop back, regroup for another push. I mean, they're a hair's breadth away of going in here at the end. They realized, all right, we lost this fight. Let's not invest too much more. Let's get back, regroup, and make another push.
And the things about the progress they made, they lose Tulky, they lose Random Noob in that process, and you can see Chronix is actually really high up on the damage charts right now. He's been able to kind of keep that toppling over 7,000 ahead of Rock Monkey. But the thing is like you said, just being right there under the bridge, all you have to do is get close, and they didn't push Envy completely out. They didn't pursue any more kills than the ones they got at the base, and because of that, Envy are able to reclaim 3/4 of the map with no problem.
Got on the backside of that fight right there. Random Noob dropped 2 of the members, and it's a Cassie and the Barrack down to almost nothing. Joel's does end up falling. Now Khan is going to be the next to be looked at. Chronix dies as well, and that's going to be a payload getting pushed in, and a fast 2-0, 4 minute 20 seconds, a 4:20 2-0 here for Envy. Here you see Rubu on his very comfortable Ruckus, doing big things. There's always that highlight that we play, the quadra kill coming in from Rubu, finding himself a double there, helping Envy go up 2-0 here on Frozen Guard, and they're just feeling good right now. I mean, it's I think chemistry. I mean, it's a little bit of everything. You get all your players, or 4 out of 5 of your players on champions that they would probably prefer to play in any given game. It's going to tend to go that way.
And there's also just to be said that Envy are just really damn good, at Paladins. Like there is a certain point where there's so many good things they do that make it so incredible to break down. One of the things we got to show off yesterday was actually Rubu talking about Ruckus and things like that. Like they understand this game and they play it so much that it's just a different level of analysis coming from the players. And when you look at it right now, you have Mr. Hayes 0-10, you have Rock Monkey on a streak, like they're comfortable. There's not a lot you can do to displace them.
The Dread Serpent's going to try to displace him, going to fall a little flat. They are going to find 1 kill on the back end of it, but not before trading out 2 of their own. And in the meantime, Rubu, Random Noob, and Toki find themselves on the point, 42% and climbing already, and these last 3 members of Kanga are just kind of pushed back into the corner here. They don't have much room to wiggle. Chronix was on top of the damage charts a minute ago, looking to weave in a little bit more damage, still on top, so doing his best to keep his team in it here, doing his best on that Cassie. Some of that chunk damage certainly helping keep him up there, but doing the best that he can. Find some chunk there onto the Ruckus. The lift up onto the Ruckus equals 1 dead Ruckus. Tolki finds a kill onto Joel's as well, but 87% here for Envy. They got to be careful if you're Kanga not to give it up.
And this is where you're going to see Mr. Hayes come in handy, because this Inara, this is where Sarah's healing can be very good, very bad. Now she's going to be able to go back up to the top, and that is going to really kind of stall Kanga out, because they just come around, they loop around, ignore the front lines. Who cares about Rhino? Kill off Chronix, and you kind of alleviate all of your problems.
This is one of those times where it's hard to say, like, oh yeah, Random Noob on the Eevee's really carrying this game, or Rock Monkey's really carrying this game. I mean, I was going to point out that every time you see Mr. Hayes on one of his supports with a high double-digit streak, it's when Envy are rolling. But it's hard to give that to one specific guy when every single person is playing so well and doing their job. You know, it makes it so much easier for everyone else to do the same, and that's exactly what's happening. Mr. Hayes keeping them topped off and healthy to keep these streaks rolling. Rubu, the lowly Ruckus, with no streak going for himself right now, but I'm sure that'll get started here soon.
I just thought of a really, really bad joke.
All right, let's hear it.
And I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there, because we have at least 30 more seconds in this game. No. Rejuvetate. We didn't actually air the commercial yesterday, as far as I saw.
Right.
But, another problem that it can help fix is Chronix back pain. Partially because he's trying to carry it, and also because he's the only pain Envy have. And you know a joke's good when you have to follow it up with an explanation.
I'm doubled over in pain right now.
Yeah, I know. The joke hurts more than anything that I ever could have done. Like physical harm, who needs that? I'm just going to tell
emotional,
really bad jokes.
You hate to hear it.
You're going to be thinking about that. That's going to give you nightmares tonight.
It will.
Not just you, but chat too. Everyone.
Chat is not going to be able to sleep. Kanga finding some finding some space. I'm just moving right on. I'm trying to dwell on that horrific atrocity as little as possible. Kanga finding some space. Actually, it wasn't that bad. I need to give you credit. That was pretty good.
No, don't give me credit. That's worse. Because I'll do it again.
Never. Evil Eye finds himself 3 in that fight, actually. So the Zen actually starting to pay off. Chronix finds 1 as well. And Envy on the back foot for seemingly the first time here on Frozen Guard. And it's sort of just off the back of a few picks. But the Hexifier comes out of the back. And now Kanga are on the back foot. Wait.
What?
Wait.
No, he's there. The random noob. He got behind him and he pushed it in.
Wait a second.
You can't take your eyes off him.
What?
That's twice in 2 games. The first time I caught him. Because I could see the diamond. I didn't even bother looking at that. They were so pushed back, and that's the only reason Envy would give up that much room.
It was a trick play. I mean, they pulled out the Hexifier, they pulled out their ultimates, they pulled out the Convergence, and we're looking at that. And in the meantime, that little red diamond is...
And he's on his mount. They let him get by without dismounting him. The turret finally took him down, but he's emoting. He's happy. He doesn't care.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
That happened. I mean, the meta pusher, he's laughing, walking into the booth. I mean, there's no way you plan for that. That's just pure game knowledge, knowing that that's something to look
that's
out
not,
for.
Like, you don't go into a game and be like,
we're going to backdoor the
Let's get up 3-0 and then send Eevee behind him. No, you go like, hey, random noob. Just sneak over there. Just do a little sneaky snake.
Wow. Heads up play there for noob. Well, that was a fun ending to game number 2. Desk, have some fun with it as well. Nick, Evan, take it away.
Oh, man. Gara's face was not one of...
says it all.
It says it all, yeah. Wow. The back door from Envy steals the game. That is, a random noob making a noob of Kanga.
Commonly known as the C9, but I think it might be worth a rename for our scene at least. I mean, that was one of the best that we've ever seen. We've seen, I think, Bugsy on Inara did it once on a Jag Falls game, but a true backdoor comes when even the cameraman is slipped and the game just kind of ends on a completely different part of the map. That's how it happens, though, man. Nobody saw him kind of squeak through. I don't really, like I said, I don't know which side he came through. I would guess mines, but I mean, through all the same, he went.
Yeah, I think sometimes you can plan this. And sometimes it just happens because you see it happening. Random Noob may not have called for everyone to fall back so he could do that. But he may have just seen, guys, they're back. I'm going to take left side and see if I can push. That is one of the biggest, I think, worries if pushing too far in Frozen Guard. Not only that you can get backdoored, but if you push too far, it's so hard to regain your hold. That's why holding at that kind of archway and the castle, so to speak, area is so much better, in my opinion, than kind of over pushing and having that result.
Especially when he made it through on his mount. So it's like, even if you see him make it through, you probably still don't make it back in time. That is a long way to walk. Even if you don't dismount him, he's going to ride all the way back there. And maybe it's hindsight, but that last death from Rock Monkey felt a little like turbo feed to me. Like it was like he was like very in there and just kind of like sliding in by himself. And I was like, I wonder if at that point, because again, I was not aware that was happening at all. So
we were shocked.
One point, the call does probably change. The Hexifier was a little strange, and now it's all starting to make more sense.
Yeah. So this is interesting. He might have just seen it and said, guys, keep him there, keep him there. I'm going. I'm very, very curious. We're going to have to get a post-game interview. It looks like they will be the ones receiving it unless Kanga does something drastically different. Envy have dominated these games, and now in an even more stylistic fashion in Game 2 with that special backdoor from Random Noob, which I'm sure is going to be talked about for the next week or so. Kanga now having to get their mind right.
Yeah, and it's tough. This is one of those sets that I feel like if Kanga didn't take their map pick, a.k.a. this map, they're likely to get 4-0'd here. It's going to be tough to come back from something like that. Envy are out in front of this set in more ways than one.
And, I mean, this is a team that's kind of gotten their full team together Wednesday, Envy, since the World Championship, have been continuing to practice, develop, and own this new meta, and have been living with each other for the last few weeks.
Right.
I mean, this is a very different setup. And even if you look at the potential skill of Kanga, the realized skill and execution of MB seems to be much higher right now. Rock Monkey smiling. It's got to leave you in a good spirit after seeing what just happened there to win game number 2. So not a point on the board for Kanga yet. And Warder's Gate will be our third map. Kanga trying to mix it up yet again. But I don't know if it's going to work.
This is fine. I mean, I definitely love to get more info on this map, how the Premier League players are looking to play it. And it's always been that Kanga style, right, to kind of bring it to those weirder maps where no one is quite comfortable, including Kanga, but they succeed in the environment where they are less comfortable because everyone is on a level playing field there. And that is still true here, though. They are all here on LAN. They all have been playing together for a while. They are still essentially coming late to this meta and coming late and playing a little bit of that catch-up game. It's always the caveat that they have kind of even put on themselves at LAN. I didn't even diagnose this. This is themselves telling me this. So maybe a little bit of that action early on here, but this is not certainly the final form of this Kanga roster.
No, not at all. And I think maybe they are waking up a lot of different time zones there from NA to Europe and Australia. So it's probably nighttime in Australia. In fact, what time is it?
WorldTimeBuddy.com.
What time is it in Australia? It's 1:50 a.m. So, yeah,
Easy.
they're tired, man. They're tired.
They're still just waking up. What time is it in, where's Jordy from? Netherlands, I think?
Yes, time in the Netherlands. Okay, we're giving you a little bit of awareness here. It's 3:51 p.m., so he doesn't really have an excuse.
No excuses.
Actually, no, this is that 5-hour energy time where you're like tired, you need that little afternoon
In a lull
boost.
after lunch.
In a lull after lunch. 5-hour energy.
And Jordy's face.
Says it all.
That was awesome.
He's trying to the eyebrow
moment.
raise. We need to get that
Get us
face
out of here alive.
and bring it back.
Stay
The
close and
scrunched
follow
nose like
my
he's starting to get allergies or something.
Yeah.
I would be allergic to that play as well.
These are the 4 bands from yesterday's
You
Kanga set.
trust
This
us
is the
and
first
are
pick
unwanted, stranger.
from last or yesterday's set as well. So this is the point MetaPusher was talking about for Team Envy. They know exactly what's coming at this point, and that's what's a little bit scary. So Kanga have got to look to maybe
this
switch it up a
game,
little
you
bit
win
or
or
just
you
get
die.
better at
There is no
what
middle
they've
ground.
committed to. I think that was a little bit what we talked about on the desk yesterday. Is it feels like these teams they're switching up like at most 1 or 2 picks. They really kind of know what they want to do and will know what they've practiced in this set. And again, when you're sitting down at the chair to play, it's a little bit too late to invent a brand new strategy.
Well, that to me is I think you're right. And for a test, I'd say sure. If you don't study enough, you can only do what you know.
Go
If
ahead.
somebody asks you an
Keep
essay
talking
question,
while
you
you
just
can.
don't know the topic. You just got to write what you can. You can't go back and study. But the issue is then the prep, in my opinion. The adjustment to the situation is something Envy's completely prepared for. And Kanga don't really have something new to be bringing out. They're trying the same stuff. But doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, that's something people call the definition of insanity. So we'll see if Kanga maybe make Envy look a little crazy themselves by changing it or having a different performance on this map.
Are you kidding? I was born ready.
Kind of the same matchups that we were looking at on
National
White Marsh,
Athletics.
except
I just
for
hope your lads
the tanks
can
are going to be a
keep
little
up.
bit different for Team Envy, as well as the support that they've got. Hayes is completely comfortable playing the Saris, though. Seeing a little bit of Ying come out from Gera and Bird yesterday, but that's definitely something to worth note. Tiny bit of Genos. I don't know if there's any merit to it yet. I think he's still definitely a niche pick support, but Saris is definitely kind of in the conversation, almost above Ying now. She's kind of taking that 3rd spot.
And the Inara from Tolkien has been so good, too. His cooldown cycling is so fantastic. Even under pressure, he knows exactly what to do to buy the time and to bait out all these CDs. Not going against the Khan this time around. He will be able to get knocked around a little bit more consistently with the Ashe, but the Barrack seems to not really be holding its own. There's got to be some damage. Random Noob, Rock Monkey have to be held to a standard. And that standard has to be lower than what they're usually performed at. It's going to be up to Evil Eye and Chronix to do it. How do you feel Warder's Gate might shake this up? Is there anything that these lineups we've seen kind of a lot of will will significantly shift on this map?
It feels like, again, it's got to be Evil Eye that controls random noobs, so then Chronix can do his thing. It's a very domino effect-esque type of situation. There's slightly less interrupt with the Ashe ultimate this time. One thing that could happen is if Saris is close enough, a reliable way to pull Ashe out of the air with convergence could be a way to interrupt her. But that was a big part of it, is how does this Ashe perform without Makoa out there this time? It's been such an important part of this Kanga lineup going into yesterday, and now today it still appears that way. But again, the Makoa shutting that down very, very heavily. I'm very curious to see how well Rhino, who's likely to be playing it, adjusts to maybe having a little bit more freedom, or at this point, is he too beat down? Is he too kind of like scared of what could happen to him if he gets really, really aggressive into this NV lineup?
He's just been so punished, right? They feel like they know exactly what to do to deal with his aggression, and he's got to have a little bit more maneuverability in that situation.
And he should in this matchup. That's what I'm worried about, right? That's a big thing we talked about with Rubu, is like always respectful but never fearful. Even when it came down to I'm the PGS team against the #1 PPL team, I'm still going to play the matchup the right way, because I do respect these guys, but there's no chance I win if I don't play my game.
The Zen's been taken, not really worked out. The Zen has been used by Envy and been extremely successful. It's bought so much time, and on a map like Warder's Gate, you might see some of these champions have just so much uptime that not a lot of kills flow very early on. You got the Inara sustain, you've got the Barrack kind of bowling ball, fail-safe reset of the rocket boots, and those things actually are very good on this map. One of the things that I do like to kind of call out is that because you have that underneath kind of zone under the point, there's a lot of up, down, around, and to the left, to the right. It's very interesting how the fight can shift on this map, and I think Cassie performs really well. If anyone's going to kind of have that star-studded moment, I think it's got to be Chronix for Kanga in this game specifically.
Yep, because he's got a really good matchup against Ruckus. It's all about, you're right, those overlooks over the point. The point tanks can sort of jump and get under the bridge and sort of bridge troll while they recover. But neither of these healers could heal without line of sight, so I don't know how viable of a retreat strategy that is going to be for them on Warder's Gate.
Well, we'll have to find out. Game 3, will Envy take a 3-0 lead, or will Kanga start to fight back here in this set 1 of the PPL on day 2? Let's send it to your casters and find out.
Game 3 underway here, Warder's Gate, and Kanga stealing away what would be the ultimate comfort picks on the side of Envy. They get the Cassie, they get the Eevee, but, you know, Rubu gets his Ruckus again, Rock Monkey gets his Leon yet again, Mr. Hayes on the Saris. I mean, both lineups look good.
Yeah.
It's the game plan that puts those lineups into action that matters.
You know, I like to use the phrase comfort picks for a lot, like for very specific champions and things like that. I don't know if Rock Monkey has a quote-unquote comfort pick. I think as long as it shoots
picks.
where he points, which is going to be everyone, he is perfectly fine with it because his aim is just so ridiculous.
If you have no comfort picks, are they all comfort picks? It's the question. I think that might
They're
be the
all
case.
uncomfort picks.
They're all uncomfort
and
picks.
you are at maybe my level where you're like, man, I'm just really bad at the game, guys.
That's true. Yeah, that's fair. Wood 5. Kanga, though, off to a hot start, finding first blood. Envy, in the meantime, finding themselves 57% up on the point. They do drop the Eevee, but lose the Leon and Ruckus on their own. Stalled out at 69%. Kanga's going to retake the point here and get it climbing on their own end. So at least initially, they found themselves some good pressure here. They found some kills. Chronix got to be careful not to fall on this retake attempt by Envy, but at least a better start from what we've seen for Kanga.
And this is actually one of the matchups, or maps, I should be very specific, that I wanted to see Envy on, because this is a new map. This is a fresh map. We've seen them on pretty much all of the old standards. Warder's Gate and Shattered Desert are the two that they've never played on competitively that I have gotten to watch through as much, right? So you get to look at this map and see what's going to be good here. Do Envy have the picks they need necessary? And right now, it seems like Kanga are the ones running the show. They should be able to get this point.
And they do. They do find the point, and that's on the back of 3 kills. So showing some life here are Kanga doing a great job utilizing those picks, finding the angles with Eevee to play, and it's pretty much been like Ruckus, Saris, Leon have been the 3 picks that they look for in each of these fights, and it's paid off in dividends. I mean, they realize Mr. Hayes gets rolling, you find him on a 15 or more streak, that's a Mr. Hayes you can't fight against, and they've just decided to nip that in the bud and go after him initially in these fights, and it's paying off well for them. Both teams have some ultimates ready. Envy closer to all 5 than Kanga is, but 2 minutes left, over halfway there. Kanga's got more than a fair shot to get this one through.
And one of the big differences between this draft, if you're wondering, you're watching, like, why is it that Envy, you know, even though they have pretty much the same draft they had last game, why are things not working out as well?
Right.
And then it's just the fact that when it comes down to it, having the Zen instead of the Eevee, having just that one change in flank has to change your playstyle, and it changes how much of an effect Random Noob has in certain areas, right? He's not going to be always behind you. He's not going to be ever-present, blinking past you, getting a couple shots, blinking back. He is going to be billowing around. Like, he's almost always going to be visible to you if you're looking for him. And because of that, it makes it a little harder for him to have the same impact he had last game. And on a map like this, you kind of need everyone to be able to make that change. Otherwise, Envy, I mean, as of right now, it's falling a little flat.
Yeah, and Random Noob dropping again on the Zen. A bit harder to backdoor on a Zen than it would be on an Eevee. Don't expect that one to come out again in this game.
He tried it.
He did.
On
Right.
Brightmarsh.
Yeah, actually, that's true. On Brightmarsh, he did. He made a little progress with it, but his team did too well, got some kills, and they respawned behind him, so that's a little unfortunate. Yeah, he's going low again here. They're doing a good job of finding him in these fights. Chronix as well. He was top damage a minute ago. I imagine he still is now. He's finding the kills. Yeah, doing great job on this Cassie. That's 2 games in a row now where he's been top of the charts, and Kanga find themselves a push. There was just no touch.
And that's just, they kill off the 2 front lines.
Yeah.
Everybody else is looking around. You could see waiting for the Eevee, trying to get the kill. And unfortunately, yes, you get the kill. You take out the Eevee. Congratulations, but the payload was uncontested.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's a good sign for Kanga. Not only just being able to show signs of life, but to take a 2-0 against the reigning world champs in this kind of set where, I said it earlier, you're the underdog. Like, people are expecting you to be all right, but they aren't expecting you to win. You come out and find a 2-0, that gives you some comfort.
It's a game changer. I mean, you have to look at it one game at a time. I mean, it's hard, though. I mean, if you go down 3 games in a row with them being 4-0s or 4-1s. I mean, you imagine it's hard to come back from something like that. But just a small change like this, going up 2-0 on the 3rd map, finding yourself some momentum, I mean, that truly is a game changer. They'll look to stick with it as they go in here. Chronix falling very early on. Rubu finding himself 2, looking for a 3rd onto Barrick. He's getting low. Shield keeping him alive at the moment. Finds himself his 3rd. Eevee's going to be the last target to fall. Still alive, but getting real low here on the backside. They're just going to let her go. 50% already for Envy, so cauterizing those wounds a little bit, coming back out, finding some kills, finding themselves the point presence, going up 85% on their way to 1 point here.
And this is the downside of being able to find a 2-0 against Envy. You give Envy the comeback mechanic. You give them the ability to capture this point faster than you can, and
that's true.
They're going to be able to hold on to the control. All they need is a couple more kills, get rid of the front lines, makes it easy. But Chronix is the one making tides right here. He's going to make a splash, but unfortunately it's only going to be in a puddle.
Only a small splash
Not
there for Chronix, not a cannonball. Evil Eye finds Haze, though, so that's going to be the healing down now on the side of Envy. They got to be careful not to bite off more they can chew. And Evil Eye cleaning up Tolki, so there's the Inara. Last is going to be the Leon. Oh, can't find the angle. She's so low. He finally finds her, but down he goes. And Envy, in the meantime, take it. They were able to get the final touch while overtime was ticking away. And they get themselves their first point here on Brightmarsh, and that was just off the back of a couple kills.
And I think the best thing I've seen out of Kanga this game, this set really, was that immediate call of, okay, they got the point, just fall back. You know what? Stop feeding them kills, stop giving them credit, stop doing whatever. Just retreat. Let them have this point. The beginning of this push is pretty easy. It's the last half of it that is the most difficult to get through. So they're looking for that hold. They're waiting for the later portions of this push because this is such a difficult area to get through, and it's because everything is so compact and the payload has to go on a giant loop to get back to where it needs to go.
Unfortunate pathing. Rock Monkey doing his best to find those angles, find that damage to make it a little easier on his team. Rubu nearly getting launched off the map there, but a nice double kill from Rock Monkey opens up this fight. Rubu adds one for himself. Barrick is going low. He's going to be the next to drop. Who's it going to be? Tolki is the one who finds it. The only survivor of that slaughter was the Damba on the backside. Joel's the last one to fall. Team Envy find their space. They take it, and they round the corner here going into the last little push.
And a beautiful convergence to really kick all of that off. And the best thing about it is that, Mr. Hayes is only going to be at, well, now 50% of his ult charge. But everybody else, because of those kills, it's going to skyrocket to the top. Random Noob kind of finding his own right where he wants to fight, how he wants to do this. Has a little bit more of a chance in my mind to take down Eevee than Eevee does him. but it does depend on exactly when he can time his Yomi strikes.
Right.
Like, if he can get that big burst right at the right moment, she's dead.
Ooh,
but
nearly.
otherwise, you watch her get away just like that.
Right, nearly finds the burst onto her right there, going very low, but now he's going low in exchange. Bit of a trade just back and forth. Eevee for the Xin, trading back health, getting healed up, and then backing off. Rubu finds Chronix, so the Cassie dies again. I mean, he's the driving force of this Kanga defense right now. He's falling on the backside. Rhino getting pushed back by Rubu as well, and it's so close. You got 30 seconds left. A quick team fight win here for Envy would spell a tied-up Warder's Gate, and Rubu getting in the face. Off the screen, Evil Eye trading one out for himself. Chronix gets back, gets some revenge on Rubu, and finds one. Pushing back Envy is Kanga, and Envy are going to elect to drop back 4 ultimate strong and regroup together.
It's going to be very difficult
They
to
see
be able to
Noob?
get in. Random Noob is going to be the one who has to find the touch unless they have a front line near enough. And I think Tolki is going to be able to kind of stand near the objective long enough. And another convergence coming out, trying to find some kills.
Another convergence keeps the Barrack tied up for the moment. Not going to clean him up just yet. His Dome Shield wears off. Rock Monkey drops Cassie on the backside. Now Barrack trying to utilize that bowling ball to stay alive, and he does just that. Instead, it's Tolki who falls. Barrack keeping himself alive, and up top to the left here, you have Ash pouring out damage. Gera, nice! Dread Serpent keeping Rock Monkey out of the fight and defended successfully as a result is Kanga, and that was just good ultimate utilization, keeping the players of Envy out at the time they needed. This is Rock Monkey finding some good kills on the back of some nice fighting here for Envy.
Oh, it was the Enlightenment.
Nice, the Enlightenment
kills,
finds
too.
it.
And that's just being able to, again, not only recognize their health bars where they are, how much damage you're about to do, but a beautiful convergence from Mr.
Yeah.
Hayes. And unfortunately, you got to see, I guess, the two sides of the coin. One that pulls in 3 or 4, and then one that pulls in nobody, or even if it pulled in Barrack, he immediately dropped the Dome Shield. And, like, that's the downside of a convergence, is when it doesn't make that pull, when it doesn't make that play. And now you have Kanga up 3-1. Unfortunately, you have Fast Cap once again re-enabled here for Envy, so they're going to be feeling comfortable on that as long as they can win one more fight. But the kills coming a lot even, the damage a lot closer than we've seen in a lot of the last games. This is Kanga not only having signs of life, but breathing life and maybe pulling some away from Envy.
Right. Oh, up goes the bird from Cassie, granting some vision to herself and her team. It's not going to matter, though, because Rock Monkey continuing his tear, finding 2.5. Rubu cleaning up the 3rd. Rock Monkey looking for his 3rd truly on the fight, and he does. Evil Eye on the backside kills off the Xin, but it's just going to be a little bit of a secondary prize here as Envy on that Fast Cap have found themselves back on the point. He's going to get in, try to get a touch, but he dashes right back into a Rubu fire. Looking for a second chance at this one is Kanga. Envy, or excuse me, the Eevee falling is not going to bode well, but here comes the Ash banner just short of time. So maybe finding some kills, finding some damage, but not going to find the contest on the payload as Envy's already cleaned it up.
And now, unfortunately, that immunity's gone, so Rhino's just in the middle of a rock and a hard place. The rock is Tolki. The hard place was Rubu. There is just nowhere to escape.
Nowhere to escape. I mean, I admire the effort. I mean, you're looking to contest, you throw down the banner, you get yourself the immunity, but it's just too late. I'm sure that's one he'd rather have back. I mean, he's already at 55%, so I'm sure he won't be, too torn up about it. If you got him, use him. Sort of that if he finds Rock Monkey as well. Damn, Envy's going really low on the backside here. Off to a strong start is the Kanga defense. Inara trying to wall herself off, but Evil Eye easy to traverse that. Here's the Hexafire finding some damage, but the payload gets in his way. He ends up dropping Rhino anyway, just electing to back off. The Dome Shield coming out, providing some damage resistance for himself and his team. Is Joel's on that Barrack, but he's going low now. A Dome Shield's wearing off, and he's very, very low, standing in that puddle, trying to keep himself healthy and alive. Envy kind of just going back and forth right now, finding themselves some damage where it is to be found, but Rock Monkey needs to be careful. He's very far up. The Enlightenment connects, but does not get the kill. Rubu finally cleans it up, and Envy have found themselves a 2-1 bit of space here, pushing into the end.
As long as they can keep this up, Chronix is low. They might be able to find the kill on him. No, he's just outside the base, so he's going to be able to back off. But the front lines are the ones that matter the most. Get rid of Rhino, get rid of Joel's, and there's no one to really stop the pressure, stop the payload. Anyone who contests at this point is going to be under the firing line. And everyone on Envy's full health, they're confident, and they're controlling.
Yeah, and Kanga trying to fight without Ash because she's dead, and that equals a dead Joel's. Few picks on the back line. Evil Eye finds one, but there's no touch in. Just late coming down is Ash. She was there, but just a moment too late. God, Rock, that makes you envious, doesn't it? Just how quickly he's able to flick. and find those kills. Here he is cleaning up his third of the fight onto Damba. It's really sealed the deal there. So a quick switcheroo here. It was 3-1 in favor of Kanga. Now Envy find themselves a point and a cap. Now a 3-3 going into the final point contest.
There is a reason that he's on Team Envy, and that is because everyone envies his aim. That is the one thing. Like,
Gore, I gave you one on Frozen
it.
Guard.
And then I pull it back. No, the one thing, because we were talking about this yesterday, you look at Rock Monkey, you look at Hakate, who we get to see play, and Vocal, who we got to see play yesterday. And like these certain players, specific players, even Chronix is up there with how good their aim is. And a lot of it will come down to those moments of how consistent is it, right? Rock Monkey is always consistent. I feel like every single game you watch, there's never a point where he feels like, man, he's just not performing today.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate now on the side of Kanga that Eevee falls because it's going to be a big bit of damage that's gone. But Random Noob falls himself as well, and that's going to be a bit of a one-on-one. Rock Monkey electing just to kind of leap off the map on the end there. Here comes a Hexafire trying to buy his team some space and time, and he does just that. 30% for Kanga, though, and they are going to get on the point here. 2 still up for respawn on the side of Envy. They have 2 ultimates on the side of Kanga. 1, 2, and some change here on the side of Envy, but 66%. You got to make a move here soon if you're Envy. Cleaning up Evil Eye on the Eevee is definitely a good start to that. Rock Monkey going low. Not going to get cleaned up at the moment. Some fight starting to break out on the backside. Random Noob finds Chronix, so that's the 2 damage dealers now out of this fight for Kanga, and they're going to get pushed off the point. They have 90%, so they'll be happy about that. But they got to retake soon because Envy are going to get up and climbing very quickly here.
And they're fighting on the side exactly where they need to. They zoned them out effectively, and you can see because of Envy, they're going to be able to take up that percent, make that gap between them and Kanga a little bit closer to give them a little more room. But Evil Eye coming around the side along with Rhino, but they get spited out, and that's going to be the aggression on the side.
And a convergence into a seismic crash is going to spell a couple kills here for Team Envy. Point is so close right now. It's going to go whoever wins this fight, and at the moment, that is Envy. They find 2. They find 3. Looking to find it 4 is the Barrack, and on the backside, he does end up dropping, and now it's just down to a Damba, but it's not going to matter. Envy come back from down 3-1 to take it 4-3 here on Warder's Gate, and what a turnaround that was from Envy. I mean, it looked like Kanga had, Kanga did have all of the momentum going into that 4th point, and Envy just flip it on its head, pull 3 straight and take it.
And that's that moment where the key word is resilience, right? Not the item.
Right.
It is going to be the players that are coming through. And that's just recognizing, you know what? Yes, we're down 3-1. We're not out. We can keep going. Make this play. Make that play. Like it becomes, instead of a game of we're ahead and we can play around, it's what do we need to do that gives us that one step forward, the next step forward, the next step forward. And they just kept finding it.
Well, they kept finding it, and they keep finding wins. 3-0 up goes Envy. And back to the desk we go to Nick and Evan.
Got to be a little heartbreak if you are a Kanga fan. That one looked like it was in the bag, but there's just nothing they can do to stop this onslaught of excellence that Envy are bringing out.
Definitely some unfortunate stuff happening at the end there. I think a spite meant for Evil Eye ends up hitting Ash, and then Evil Eye blinks into a seismic crash. Just tough stuff there down the stretch. But that's the way it can happen, though, when you let that kind of comeback happen. Envy certainly looked like they were on the ropes there, but just so resilient and never quite to be counted out of that, despite the hot start for Kanga.
It's got to feel unfortunate to lose, but in the same vein, you have a better performance than you've had in the entire set there. So maybe this is the sign of things improving, maybe figuring it out a little bit. I think that's what Hayes would probably be cautioning the guys that, hey, listen, obviously we lost, we need to close it out, but we're doing better, and let's keep on this path, especially since it's, only day 2 of the PPL.
That feels like a game, if cleaned up, is definitely a win for Kanga, right? And that's the big takeaway from, I think, a lot of these games when they go back and look at them, is that if we just do a good amount, even on Bright Marsh to some extent, you do some cleaning up there, and those are very different looking maps, and in this case, definitely a win for them. But Envy, always so clean all the time, and will definitely take that inch and make it a mile. If you give them little bit of mistakes, they're going to blow massive holes in your game plan and your armor.
Well, game 4 coming up here. Will it be our first sweep of the PPL? It's already been our first 3-0. We've never seen that before. Day 1 was so contested, but we did talk about Envy playing Na'Vi, Renegades playing Kanga. We had a lot of matchups that seemed to fit teams who might be in the same echelon of play against one another. Now we're seeing a top dog versus a dog still trying to bark his way up the pecking order, so to speak. And that's going to be a difficult one, as always. Even Na'Vi struggled against Envy, and their set's coming up actually right after this, so stay tuned. But Nick, what are your predictions for Game 4? Do you think this is done and dusted already, or do you think?
I
that
think
Kanga
after
can
a
blow
loss
back?
like that, and I was a little surprised because I called if they don't take one of the first 2 maps, then it's probably going to be a 4-0. And I was surprised they put up this much of a fight on Warder's Gate, and to get that close and lose almost makes me want to double down on my point that it's just going to be tough at this point for sure. Depends where they go next. Again, you got to always remember Kanga do like to get on those weirder maps and go a little bit further down the stretch. They've kind of been trying that, though, and it just doesn't work. And I think that strategy is going to become less and less valid as all of these sets are going to be best of 7. All of them are going to be on weird maps. They all have the 4 map bans. And again, Kanga do a good job, I think, of managing expectations coming into this matchup.
I think this is a good map, too. Jaguar Falls, you just go to something pretty standard. You don't try to take them to Timber Mill right now or Ice Mines. I think this is a smart play by Kanga, and let's see what they can do. However, Renegades, they got their momentum off of Ice Mines yesterday in Game 5, so it's not the worst play, but that was also a sub 10-minute Ice Mine, so they clearly had a plan for it and executed it really, really nicely. Kanga here with the Torvald ban yet again. Will we see the same thing again?
It's time for Tyra. Na'Vi dropped Envy on Jaguar Falls in 6 or 7 minutes with the Tyra, so it might be the secret sauce here to defeating this North American powerhouse. But it seems like it's going to be maybe the same bans again. Here we're starting out that way with the Torvald Grover. At the very least, Makoa Khan would be the next 2 if we're expecting that vanilla ice cream matchup.
Vanilla Ice?
Yes.
Oh, man.
They're under pressure.
Vanilla Ice or Tupac? What do you think? Really up for debate. I don't know. Ice Ice Baby is
both
just
cracking my top 3.
It's a cultural classic. How can you not? But I really guess the sample comes from Queen, so you got to give love to that.
Okay.
All right. So Queen, best rapper. I guess we figured it out. Leon banned. So a little bit of a change up here. Rock Monkey's aim has been locked and loaded. That is for sure. So I like this adjustment from Kanga. Envy now forced to give up something a little higher of value, and they're still not going to do the Makoa. I think this is smart. A lot of respect still given to their opponent.
No, I think if Kanga... Oh, there's going to be a con ban. Little switch up there, so Torvald is open.
I see.
This changes things pretty drastically if we see any type of combinations. Have not seen the Torvald Koga despite... it hasn't really been open ever, but PPL has stayed pretty far away. I know how Random Noob certainly feels. Never mind, it is a Torvald ban, so we'll figure that one out. We'll go ahead and get into this draft here under the assumptions of some type of ban, and it will be the con, despite Ashe being left open here, so Envy could pick up an Ashe Inara here. It could be a good little spot, and these are the confirmed bans. These are the ones that we're going to move forward with.
Of the wild.
Inara is locked in here, as well as something else, and it will be the Cassie. Rock Monkey's played Leon all set long. A little bit of pressure put on him here with the Leon ban, and it's just a quick pivot over to Cassie.
I think Drogos here is going to be a nice resurgence of a comfort champion for Evil Eye. Get him on something a little different, but something still very valuable. It's an ult you have to respect, and on this map can be played with Wormjets pretty successfully. No hit scan as well. As far as the traditional Leon, that can peck him out of the sky. Will Envy adjust further for this? I mean, the Ruckus seems like a natural kind of secondary tank at this point.
They could go for it. The Barrack is still open. We know Rubu likes that pick as well. I'm looking at definitely a Bomb King as well. Being able to knock Ashe or kind of around the map here. And maybe even knock Khan off, because Khan's going to be able to play, he's going to want to play a little bit more towards the map hazard side so he can overpower off. Could leave him a little bit more vulnerable to he himself being thrown off in turn.
Well, they've got one more, and here it is, the Ruckus. There's that hit scan pressure. Usually you'll see them do that if there is no real great damage counter and a target like Drogos who really needs that pressure, and projectiles aren't always as trustworthy. We're still waiting on Random Noob's pick as well, so he's going to be able to flex into a lot. Zen, that would have been a good pick, and I like Kanga anticipating that. The Saris will go their way, and they already knew they were going to grab that since Maldamba was taken earlier. So what does Envy flex to? Will it be the Bomb King? And oh boy,
Ooh.
that will be spicy if this is really the case.
Haven't seen the noob Cassie in a while. Envy at this point feeling spicy.
Wow. So this is interesting. The Androxus, for the first time, I believe, this month that I've seen played, even in the PML. So the PPL gets the Andro debut. How do you feel about this one?
They're just copying console at this point.
At this point, Envy's basically
There's
just
a guy named
console clone.
V8 Androxus that played it into terrible matchups and got curb stomped.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah.
On
it was on Jag.
E-Storm?
I think it was. Yeah, it was on E-Storm
Yep,
on Jag Falls.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, he does play Andro.
They got turbo clapped, and hopefully Envy will tell us a different story here. But I am very excited to see Rock Monkey's Andro. I love the champion. I think he's wicked fun to watch. Just not quite in the most viable spot right now.
So we'll see if they can change that dynamic. Coach is still in the room, which means game just about on the precipice of getting ready. They're going to get kicked out the second they start. They get in the sneaks. They get in the bread. Envy have been dominant thus far. And Kanga Esports just trying to hold on. But one more game is all they have to test their might against the defending world champs. It's Jaguar Falls, and it's game 4.
Envy certainly getting the bread up to this point, going up 3-0. The Andro, the obvious thing to look at here in the early game. Random noob on the Andro. Certainly be fun to watch.
And one of the things, I haven't gotten to say this in a while, so I'm excited to be able to say it. The natural predator of a Drogo, someone who can take it down. I think it's poetic justice to have Random Noob of all people playing the Androxus, considering how good his Drogos is. But a lot is going to have to come through. Like Nick said, not necessarily in the meta right now, not really considered quote-unquote viable by a lot of teams, so he's going to have to put in a lot of work.
Well, it's viable when you can get the Drogos down to about 2% health here on the backside. The reversal comes in, not going to reverse enough damage. He's going to go very low. Khan trying to get into his face and clean him up. He's going to shield up instead, so maybe just a little bit of swapping spaces here on the backside. Envy clean up to a early 30% lead here, but no kills just yet. Some low health bars on either side, but this fight continues. The Drogos versus the Andro, and Andro gets the better side of this one. Rhino coming in on the backside, bit of a third party there, cleaning up Random Noob, so 1 for 1 to start things off, but Envy have found themselves nearly 60% here on the point, and now Rhino's going to be the focus of the Cassie and the Inara. Big game, looking to clean up the Khan on the backside, and it's only a matter of time. Nobody's going to get some healing. Watch your back, though. You got somebody coming up, and it's the Drogos. He's going low as well, and this is just a battle back and forth. Random Noob finds him again. 63% now for Kanga. They've just been chilling on the point the entire time, and it's just been 1 for 1 trades across the board here.
And the big thing about that first blood, the way it's been going specifically with Androxus, is that first blood is a 1v2 where he kills off Drogos, then loses his own life. But now he's in that area where, okay, Envy are in control. They're driving this seat. Yeah, Rubu's going to be able to take that down, but is it going to be enough? Chronix, can you make a difference on your own? I mean, you have everyone waiting for you.
And overtime ticking away. Not sure the touch is there. Here comes the long arm of the law, the accursed arm coming out. The touch is not going to be in time. Random Noob finds himself one as well as Rock Monkey. Pretty standard as far as the book goes there. Each of them finding one in the fight, dropping one on the backside for Kanga. And Envy find themselves an early 1-0 start here in the top 4 damage dealers, the Inara. Top damage on the team. It's hard for the Drogos, though, when you have a Androxus up in your face the entire time. It's hard to find the damage when you're basically dying right off the bat every time you spawn.
And, you know, one of the things I'm noticing about Random Noob specifically is that some cards that I, in my mind are always in Androxus's loadout are not going to be around anymore. Still has the Nether Step heal, still going to be looking around for his dash, but we saw a really, really big traversal away from the dash build to a punch build. Now looking back to the dash, being able to hit people with reversal to get a cooldown, being able to find a little bit more movement speed and movement distance on your dash. And that's the mobility. That's what's making him so hard to track down. He just can be all over the place.
The Dragon Punch finds one, but he trades himself out. So that's an Inara for a Drogos. Payload very close to going in here. Rock Monkey just trying to rat-a-tat-tat out some damage here from the backside. The Ash Wall is going to mitigate most of it. You got the Cassie, you got the Damba around the corner there. Her, Damba, Drogos all streaking at the moment, finding their stride here on these 3 champions as they look to get in on this final push. Chronix on the Xin this time, a bit different. Seen him on the Cassie a good bit this series. Haven't seen him on the Xin yet. Seems to be doing all right so far, but here comes the fight. It's going to start out very quickly here. Looking for a pick is Envy, maybe trying to find one onto the Drogos again. Tolki's going low on this Inara, though. Rubu and Random Noob find one instead. Rhino, Evil Eye dropping very early on. Here comes the reversal, and it finds some damage. The last one standing right now is Saris and the Xin, but they're going to be soon to fall. The payload's going to be soon to going in if they can stagger these kills enough.
And stagger they will. 12 seconds left until you have that Xin back online. But the front lines are here. You're going to have a seismic crash come out. Don't even need it. But you'll get the kills anyway. Just take down Rhino. Icing on the cake as it is up 2-0 here now for Envy. And admittedly, like a lot of that, they hit the one choke point and things look maybe like they'll be rough. And then it's like, well, there's a minute left. You're on Jag Falls. Like, all you need is a couple of kills. And then a couple of kills roll through. And then they just keep rolling. And that's the way this set has been, is just, except for Warder's Gate, Envy get a couple kills, they get a couple more kills, and then they just keep going. First 2 games, it was very easy momentum. Third game, it kind of slowed down, but now it seems like they all have it back.
Seems like they're rolling yet again off to his 2-0 start here on Jag Falls. Definitely a good an interesting composition. I mean, the Drogo 6-2-4, or the Andro, excuse me, 6-2-4, starting out well this time. I mean, he seems to be playing it very well. I mean, less viable does not necessarily mean not good, especially in the hands of somebody like Random Noob. Cursed Arm not going to find any kills, maybe a little bit of poke damage here onto the Ashe, but that's going to be enough to get her to fall. Xin dashing in right now, finding himself pretty low, and now the eye's going to be turned onto the Drogos, but he's going to dip out. Rhino falls on the back end as well, so that's 2 for 0 here in favor of Envy. Make it 3, 39% and climbing now, looking to grab their 3rd point here, go up 3-0.
And, you know, instead of less viable, I feel like it's much more apt to describe him as just not in the meta. Like, people just aren't playing him. It's not necessarily like, obviously he works. You have to have him in a good scenario, but that kind of goes the way with a lot of champions. But you're looking at this Androxus. He's finding a lot of damage. These reversals are hitting because he's running that Godslayer. He is getting the damage down, and he's causing so much trouble for Kanga. Because where are you going to look? If you're looking at him, you're not paying attention to the 3 other targets that are going to be shooting you. There's nowhere that's safe. It's either between Rock Monkey, Rubu, or this Andro and Random Noob. Like, you're never going to be in a good zone. Definitely
not. And utilizing that dash build to a T. Doing a very good job. Mr. Hayes, as he does the power T here in the booth. Mr. Hayes finding himself streaking yet again. That consummate 16 or more streak for Mr. Hayes coming in on the support yet again. The Spite's going to come out onto Rubu, find the damage. Are they going to find the kill? He has 73 health. He chases it. Chronix cleans up Rubu on the back end, so the ult does end up helping him find a kill on that one. So finding a little bit of space here. Are Envy going to elect to fight anyway? With the Andro flying high, it's going to be hard to turn this one around. Rock Monkey and Toki find one as well. And now Ashe is the target of the Andro.
Bonks her head.
But he's not going to clean her up, at least at the moment. Finding the Saris on the back line right now is now going to be his target. But the Khan, he's just switching targets so well right now, putting damage wherever he's able to find it. Ashe going low, Ashe dropping. Unfortunate there from Joel's. Here comes the Ruckus Hexifier, finds some damage as well. And Random Noob is literally just all over the place. You see him in 1 minute up above the archway. The next minute he's in the back of the Kanga Esports base, and Envy are pushing right now, looking to make it a clean 4-0 sweep.
And that's what I'm saying. You can't lock him down. His loadout is literally built around being momentous, being able to move around. And Joel's, unfortunately, right into a Dread Serpent pushed back out. This should be a push.
You'd think it would be. You'd think it'd be 4-0 on Jag Falls. You'd think it'd be 4-0 here in the set. The Xin doing his best. Not going to be enough. Envy find themselves a clean 4-0 game 4. A clean 4-0. Game number 2 in the PPL. So off to a very hot start of your defending world champions.
Yeah, being able to put themselves, I believe, well, as of now, of course, because they're the only team that's been able to play twice other than Kanga, and they're the only team that has won twice. They are going to be the top of the standings for you. But, I mean, that's kind of what you expect from Envy, especially in this matchup. I'm looking more at Kanga of what did you learn in this set? What are you going to be able to internalize, and will you then be able to turn that into something positive next week, the week after? 13 weeks of play, all best of 7s. You've got plenty of time to get better. This is week number 1. It didn't start the way you wanted it, but there's still so much more to go.
Plenty of time left for them in the PPL, but Envy, again, off to a clean 2-0 start. Let's send it back to the guys at the desk to break this one down.
Well, Envy start their PPL in the strongest ways possible. They take down their team that took a potential world championship away from them, but not quite, because Envy were able to pull that out against Navi. And then able to take Kanga 4 games and not do anything extra with it, just finish them off like that. Nice start for the defending world champs.
Fun little cherry on top on Jag Falls for sure, though. I definitely enjoyed the Androxus. Did not see it coming on Random Noob, though. That was sort of a treat to watch. Played the Godslayer talent as well. Very, very cool stuff. Little guillotines in as well, so, you know, Kanga not being left in the dust too much in terms of the spice.
And they have definitely room to improve. I think Kanga on the draft side showed that they weren't as flexible as I would have actually anticipated from the traditional style of Kanga, where they have every map, they have every draft possible. But this goes into kind of back at Worlds, where they got eliminated a little easier, a little faster than they had expected. I think they were expecting to make the similar run that SSG did on the other side of the bracket, but it just didn't work out. And so there's a lot to, you know, kind of start putting back together. And it is a process. Evil Eye, Gera, Rhino, Jules, Chronix, they've got some work to do. I think starting out, the Ashe is something that, you know, seem to over-prioritize, but they'll take a look at the tape and see what works for them. Yeah,
I think as they evolve, they will just have more drafts, right? They're a little bit predictable right now, and that's, again, it's the first time, you know, first week matchups they're sort of playing together.
Yeah.
Not to be too excusatory for them, but now they've been a little bit exposed as to what they like. Especially after that set yesterday against the Renegades. It was very, very much the same sort of stuff over and over and over again. And I don't know if that comes back to maybe just Kanga thought they had that matchup before they necessarily had that matchup.
Right.
And they thought, well, you know, we have our game plan. It's almost like Fnatic-esque, where it's like, the plan is fine. We just played it wrong, right?
No, I mean, and the Kanga have this kind of like fun, cheery confidence about them, and I think that exudes from their captain, that exudes from their coach, it exudes from everything about the players and who they are, and maybe just a little bit of being Australian. I don't know what that is, but they've got that vibe to them. And I think it's really more just about giving everybody the respect in the game, saying, you know, we need to change our bans to make sure you're not getting that consistently. We need to try to make you uncomfortable because we know how good you are. It felt like they were content to let Envy have whatever they wanted just so they can get what they want and go toe-to-toe. These guys are the world champs for a reason. You have to try to hamper them some way, or at least give yourself an advantage in the draft. Unfortunately for them, did not work out today, but there is still more, of course. Envy have done so much to continue to evolve as they've transitioned from world champ to now defending world champ, now starting the PPL where you're even with everyone else, but they've jumped out to this lead. What's been the difference, the reason why they've been above and beyond their competition?
They don't let off the gas, right? They continue to not underestimate their opponents, especially even with that substitute with Na'Vi yesterday, and especially even with Kanga today, right? They still kind of went back, looked at what they picked, figure out what they want to be able to use to defeat Kanga with today, and that is what got Envy here, and it's what is going to keep Envy here.
Well, Envy are your winners of set number 1 today on day 2 of the PPL, and we have a word with Tolkien and I believe Mr. Hayes to give us some thoughts after that match.
Tolkien, Mr. Hayes, thank you for sitting down with us, and congratulations on your second win here in the PPL. One thing I want to jump into really early on, what are the comms like in game number 2 when Random Noob is backdooring the payload? What is going through the team's mind? What opened that up? What allowed that play to happen?
So it all started with we started getting wiped, and we're like, all right, just reset. And we started backing out, and we started staggering, so they just kept pushing forward. But I guess Random died first. He just went all the way behind. And, like, after he ran behind him on Mount, he's like, yo, just stall him. I'm going to backdoor. Just stall. And Rubu just, like, popped his ult randomly to make some noise, and, yeah.
We called out the Hexafire when it happened, and I was sitting there, like, going through my head, just like, why would you ever pop that there? That just seems like the weirdest place. And then, lo and behold, you win the game. But then a little bit of turmoil strikes, and word is gate. You go there, you end up going down 3-1. What is going through the team's mind? Like, when you're coming in, you're at that deficit. How do you kind of get back to the point where you're able to take that map?
For Warder's Gate, we had to identify what they're doing, what we needed to do, like what were we struggling with to cause us to lose these points. We identified those issues and then worked to adjusting mid-game, and then those adjustments helped us a lot in that Warder's Gate game, and we came back.
And Tulki as well, I noticed that there was a lot of Inara coming out for you today. I know yesterday we saw a lot of Fernando. Some interesting thoughts on that. Is there something that you saw today that made Inara a little bit more viable?
Not really. It was just Inara was up more often, and I just prefer Nara over the rest.
Yeah.
So
Told
I'll
you it was
take a
just like,
preference.
just pick me a Nara. I don't feel like playing anything else.
Well, congratulations once again, guys. It's Mr. Hayes and Tulky from Team Envy. The
Thank
second
you.
win, and now I guess technically number 1 in the PPL. We'll see how the rest of the day goes. But thank you so much for coming in. We're going to go to a quick break, and then we'll be back with set number 2.
Thank you.
Brought to you by Skillshot, Hi-Res Studios, Evil Mojo, INAP, Steel Series, Respawn.